Millennials. We're back again for another episode of Jack of All Trades. I'm here with Kaylin and of course Sam, and I've got some new lights going on in the background, so pretty stoked about that.
Did you always have those?
I had this garden lawn light that was like.
Oh, okay. Because I got one of those too in the corner here. Change the lights.
Yeah, that's kind of like that. But then I was on Amazon. I saw the set that was for sale. It was like, so the one that's hitting my face, and then there's one in the background too. It was like $200 or so. I always wanted one, so I'm like,
yeah, they're expensive, man. Like mine's just like a little post light that changes colors. I think it's like $250.
Oh, I know. So apparently LEDs are made in the same facility with very similar equipment as semiconductors, like CPU chips.
Oh, really?
So that's why they're like they're not cheap.
Yeah, I got lights in everything, man. My speakers have LED, my mouse pad, my mouse, my keyboard, my desk, and my computer. All have their own LED systems.
Why am I so late to this? Like, I just discovered everybody's starting to do this now.
Oh, dude, I got lights in everything in my house. Great.
Yeah, I bought a strip and I'm gonna put it on my like old furniture or whatever. But
I was looking at those. I was thinking about putting some behind my TV, but my wife is just like, no, that's not gonna start creeping into the rest of us.
she nixed that, eh?
Yeah. So I can light up my office as much as I want.
Oh man, that's funny. So I wanted to talk about Bitcoin today. Just to let our viewers know, I wanted to talk about Bitcoin because it's doing something right now, and I want to talk about Galaxy because I'm heavy into that, and it's doing something weird, and looks like it's on the short side. So I want to talk to Kaylin because he's like the master of that. So yeah, why don't we get started with reading Bitcoin?
Absolutely, yeah. I got the weekly chart open here on my screen right now.
Cool. And I just noticed, I was just telling you earlier, I just noticed that Bitcoin has never closed above 60,000 on a weekly.
Yeah, it looks like the highest. I can't read it on here. Yeah, probably just a hair under 60.
Yeah. So I think if we close tomorrow 8 p.m. above 60, it's going to signal to a lot of institutions that Bitcoin's here to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because you dropped like, what did we fall off in, like May or something? Like it's only been a 5 month.
Yeah, it was May 10th of May was the start of the week where it really. So you had 2 weeks where it sold right off, and then we just consolidated for 2.5 months, and then started coming back up.
Yeah, so if we can close with an all-time high at least on the weekly, I mean, 4-month recovery, 50+% drop, like, institutions should be salivating at the profit potential. The volatility is amazing.
Yeah. There's something I wanted to show you here. I was just looking at this. Check this out. If I go to the daily line chart.
I gotta
check this out. This is the best, man. I'm telling you, line chart makes everything super clean. Like, even look at that line, like 40,700. Look at that, like top right there, like to the dollar, and then same thing here, and then flooded around it, and then when it had that pullback right here again, like right off of it, just cleans everything up so nice. Like, I don't think I could trade without the line chart. But check this out. I was just looking at this because this is what I usually do. Like, because obviously you guys know that I'm pretty short biased on most of my trades. So the first thing that I always like to do is kind of like figure out where the front side and the back side is. Front side being like over top of your uptrend line, back side being below it. And as soon as you're below the back side, that's when you start shorting.
Oh, did it break through?
But check this out. Yeah, so check this out. Look, so that's like right here, this little line at the bottom there, that's like the start of the trend, right? So if you carry that all the way across, look at the way that lines up. So we came down, we broke through it under here, right? And it peaked into it, like higher peaks into this uptrend line twice. Broke down, and then we hit it again 1, 2, 3 times here, tried to break through. Then we had that big rejection down. And right now it ripped straight back up, consolidated, and now we're finally back through. So as of like basically this week, we're front side again of the major move, which is huge because as soon as you reclaim this line, if you're short side, like that's where you should be getting out. Like that's where any smart short would be getting out because now we're back on the front side of the move. So in my opinion, it's no longer a short. And if you are shorting, it's way riskier.
Yeah, so that's what I was debating on. I'm still in bearish mode, but I look at the chart. I'm like, I don't see anything bearish. I mean, the RSI is not in a super oversold position. The technicals look good. Like it could do a pretty good breakout before a pullback.
Yeah, I'm not bullish on a lot of things usually because I'm pretty cynical. But like If it was like, I wouldn't even be considering shorting this thing up here personally. Like maybe if you were looking to go into like all-time highs for a quick move, but like that would be it. Because like this one right here in beginning of September where it broke through and you had that big reject, and like I don't know if you can see that, but like if you zoom in, like check out the volume candle here, right? Like the big red volume candle, that's a big reject candle, right? Like huge compared to the past like few months. So that's when it tried to get through, and then
Was that September 1st?
September 7th.
Okay.
So that's kind of like where we tried to get through. And like if you look at the volume back here, for the past like couple months, really, it was pretty consistent. And then this one's like almost twice as big when it got through. And then that red candle that rejected it was just huge volume. So that's a big reject. And then it sold way down here, below the 200 and the 50 moving averages. And then we just had this straight up move, consolidated around this same trend line again. And now we're like right through it, like we're comfortably through it. So like to me, we're all front side, man. That's all bull right now. I don't think this is bearish anymore at all.
That movie just described, I just remembered it now because I was playing that live. So if you go back to the peak, the rejection, I remember thinking that a bull trap was coming up. So it was like a week or so before the previous peaks. I sold there. I had automatic orders that took profit there.
Mm.
And then the peak happened. I was like, oh shit, I guess I missed it. And then it got a huge rejection. I'm like, oh, looks like I called that.
Yeah. It's pretty cool how that works. Like that's why up here looks really nice too, because we kind of hit it, went underneath, and then we actually got over it and bounced off of it. So that trend line's actually held now and it's worked, right? That's kind of a nice place to get in if you're long, is once you see that bounce happen, then you're a little bit more comfortable, right?
Yeah. I just want to point out to viewers who like are just getting started looking at the charts. The volume candles, I know a lot of people, including myself, when I first started, I was like, oh, if it's a red candle, then it means there's probably more sellers. If it's a green, there's more buyers. It's not true. It's the volume, right?
Mm.
It's like if the candle closed red, that's why the volume bar is red. That's all.
Right.
So what I actually did was I turned it all gray because I'm like, I don't need to know red. It just more confusion. I just need to know.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh,
like I just need to know the volume.
I still have mine red. Or like red and green, I should say.
Yeah.
But no, it's just a matter of interest, right? Because you got like this big red candle is a combination of long selling and short shorting, right? So it just shows interest, right? It just shows interest in that one direction. A lot of people getting in. So whatever if you go back to the candles, like this range on this day from open to close, like that range just has a lot of people in whatever position they're in, whether it's shorts getting in or longs getting out or longs buying in at the bottom. There's just a lot of interest in this area. So I think that's why over here, when we kind of like, you can see even like at the bottom of this candle, if I go and I draw a line kind of straight across at the bottom of that candle, that lines up pretty nice. Like we broke through here and then we sat on top of that, which is right where this candle closed, right? Because that's all the interest because of this volume bar. So now we sat on there and we came up. And then up here, if we do another line, top of that candle, that's where we sat right on top of, right? We got through this, this kind of high volume zone from back here when it failed the breakout. Now we sat on top of it, and now we're moving back up. So this to me signifies a trend reversal.
So that's what I actually really liked about this last little rally. It was like really cautious. You could tell it wasn't hype. Like it would go up, break an all-time high, and then quickly come back down and test support and just kind of, and it would stay there for a few days and then go back up again, just really cautiously like work its way up.
Yeah. Like these are great things to look for. Like if you see a big volume candle, any big volume candle is going to have some level of interest. And like it's usually the wicks are kind of good, I think, to work off of. But like for the most part, it's the open and close prices that are kind of your key levels. Like for me, because I never do like super long-term stuff. Like David, I know you do like obviously way longer swings than I do, but like the trade for me would be like, okay, this thing closed over this bottom bar. So I'd buy in here and then I would sell into the top line, like just play the channel, right? Like that's all you're trying to do. Or, short near the top and try and cover near the bottom. It's just in the middle is kind of like no man's land. Like that's where you don't really want to touch it. So like if it's already up kind of halfway through and you're thinking about going long, then you just wait. And then here, now we've gotten over it. So now you're in the next level of the channel, right? So then you can buy above this line and you risk below that line. So it's just like once you get those key levels in based on volume, those are kind of the lines you play off. Everything in between, just ignore it. Like if you miss it, you miss it.
Do you ever learn the candle patterns? I just realized that area you were pointing to earlier, because I remember
Mhm.
there's a bunch of names for them. The area you're pointing to earlier, that's the opposite of three, was it three black crows or whatever? So it's like, but basically the pattern is the first candle is green and it's small, then it'll actually start growing and it'll grow into this giant engulfing candle.
Mm.
The three black crows is the opposite version of that. So that's red. So red will start slow and then just dump. I just can't remember what the green one of that's called. But that was like a very standard like OG chart pattern.
Oh yeah, no, I
Yeah.
honestly don't know like any of those. I just play based off lines and volume, really.
I spent like a week learning them, and I'm like, you know what? There's too many of these names. Just
Yeah,
forget it.
yeah. I
But
think it depends what you're doing too, right? Like if you're doing like large caps where things are kind of moving a little bit more fluidly, stuff like that. Maybe that makes a little bit more sense. Like I just don't think it really applies to like my particular
oh
trading style
yes,
as much. But
Sam's the man.
well, there
Three
you go.
soldiers? No, not three soldiers.
Kicker. Yeah, I don't know any of these.
Yeah, I gotta. I I'll you know what we should maybe I should do an episode on one of them or cover it a little bit. It's good for me to refresh anyway.
Yeah. The only ones that I guess I could say I know are like the dojis, because that just signifies whichever side has the biggest wick. That's kind of the direction it's going to flip around to.
Those are the most important. That's the only one that
Yeah,
people should care about, and maybe the dragonfly. The dragonfly, the hammers, those are like reversals patterns. You kind of want to know those.
dragonfly. I never heard of that
Yeah,
one.
it's top left, second from
Dragon-
so the hammer and the dragonfly doji.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
Same,
right.
yeah, same thing
And then
for
you get
me.
the opposite. You get the opposite version on the other side. You get the shooting star and the gravestone, which is just inverted hammers and dragonflies.
Yeah, exactly.
I love seeing those.
I was using those for the longest time. I didn't know they had like an actual name. I was just like, oh, that's a big. I just call them big bottom wick or big top wick candles.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was
That
you actually when I was talking to you. You're like, oh yeah, like there's this doji, and you're like pointing at it, and I'm like, what the hell is this guy talking about? This is after like 3 years of me trading.
uh, this is what I love about trading, though, man. You don't need any kind of formal education. It's like if you get it, you
No.
get it.
Yeah, I know. Like people explain stuff to me all the time. Like, oh yeah, you see this? They use all this like technical language. And I don't know what the hell you're talking about, man. And then they'll explain it to me. I'll be like, oh, that's what that's called. Like this is my name for it.
You know what I find? I find a lot of people will use technical language to mask how much they don't know or the fact that they don't know.
I agree 100%, man. Like anytime people come up to me and they're like, oh, like yeah, have you looked at the FINRA data or this? And then they start like throwing out all these technical terms and like you don't know what that is and you don't know what this is, and I'm just like, no, man, like, I don't need to. Why do I care? You know?
The funny thing is they'll reveal themselves because if you just keep asking them questions, eventually they'll put two things together that they don't understand that don't belong together, and you're like, ah, gotcha.
Yeah. Or they kind of like explain something through and like, yeah, because if it does this, then it has to do that, and I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. Or someone will tell you some news that they heard on some website, and I'm like, no, that's wrong. And then I'll research it, and I'm like, yeah, that's wrong.
I love it, man.
Yeah,
But like
be
so
objective.
yeah, so you're bullish on Bitcoin. You think we got a good chance of going all time high, eh?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like this is a line. Like this trend line has basically been intact since a year. It's been 12 months. It started it started on the 7th of October 2020. So it's respected this trend line for a year. So that holds a lot of weight for sure.
Oh, I forgot. There's a chart I kind of want to show if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
I'm just gonna see if I can pull it up. I just don't remember which one because I got like so many versions of TradingView. Oh, here we go. Yeah, because so you know me, like I go balls deep when I look at a chart. I look at like the yearly, the weekly, the monthly. I just look through everything, its entire history, right? So
Yeah.
I found a lot of interesting stuff on Bitcoin. First of all, there was that asshole on CNBC. He called himself Chartmaster.
Chartmaster. There's a guy on CNBC that calls himself Chartmaster.
Yeah, like that's actually his actual name that they'll like put up on screen and stuff like that.
Oh, so
Um,
lame.
I know. Let's
I
see.
call myself the short king. Like, fucking is that?
All right, let's see if here we go. So this is the weekly. I want to show this. This is when I knew the chart master was wrong, because this was back when Bitcoin was around like the mid. I know it was
Sorry,
back
that's
in
just
the.
funny.
It's because of that name that I went after him on Twitter. I'm like, you're gonna call yourself that, and you're gonna be wrong. I'm gonna come after you.
Yeah.
I have the screenshot of me ragging on him too. So I drew this. So he basically was showing that Bitcoin was somewhere in like the mid 30s, and he was like, "Oh, it's going to 20,000." And his only reason for saying 20,000 was that it was the previous high. So I ripped on him. I'm like,
Mm.
"So you're telling me the only reason you're saying 20,000 is because that was the previous high? Like that's all you've learned in TA, in years of TA, and you got a
Mm.
CMT certification, right?" I'm like, I actually looked at the entire history. These are the last 3 bull runs. In every one of these bull runs, Bitcoin broke through all-time high and never retraced back to more than 35% of the previous high. There's always been a gap, 30%,
Yeah.
30%, 35%, right? So that
I
was
remember we talked about this. I think a couple months ago we were looking at this too.
that's right. I was the only one that I can find anywhere that's posted this, that talked about this. And because of this, I'm like, I mean, we've been and look at for 3 months we've been knocking, excuse me, knocking at that support, but we never broke it.
Mhm.
Held
Yeah.
solid, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's a good sign too, right? Because like normally when you get those kind of breakouts, like any time frame, like if it come, I mean, it can come all the way back to the all-time highs. Like that's kind of the ideal
Mhm.
buy-in spot. But if it only comes down, it comes down higher. Like a lot of people miss those entries, and that usually makes the move more powerful because guys miss their entries because they're expecting it to come down low, and then it starts turning around, and then everybody goes, "Oh crap, I missed it," and then they start buying in aggressively, pushes it even faster. Like those moves are a lot more explosive usually than the ones that do come down to the previous highs.
Yeah, that's right. So I thought that was interesting. I'm like, so I was pretty solid with buying in here. That's why I played that reversal. I still to this day, I still think I'm the only one that called that called the bottom, because everyone's like, "Oh, it's going to 20,000. It's going to 20,000." Okay,
Mhm. Yeah, that
and
was a
it's
good play.
it's not like I have any more knowledge or skills at them. It's just like I just spend a little more time looking at the chart, just getting a little piece of information that's people like obviously overlooked. You know?
Mhm. Well, like I remember I was short there, and like I don't usually like chasing weakness, but I did there a little bit. But like by the same token, I cut it for like like a 2% loss or something like that. Because that's a play. If I'd have held on, I would have been down 100%.
I want to just check something, because you drew that line. I think we're still working on the front side. Or we're still working on the back side right now.
Of like overall, yeah, I guess. So shorter. So we're in the 12-month front side again, but maybe not all-time history.
Yeah. But here's the
Actually, you know
funny
what?
part.
If you draw it from the very start, like from the very bottom of 2011,
This one?
no, like the bottom of the actual candles, like the first red close.
Ah, this one.
Yeah, like go from like there and then go to like pull that down a bit. No, like right where it says on that top consolidation where it's 80, 67, 280, or right under that. Further to the right, to the right. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, and right about there. How's that line up?
That's interesting. That's COVID stop there. Stop COVID.
Mm-hmm. Because like the move that we're in now, those last two bottoms, that's front side of that move that we're in right now.
Hey, good question. You don't look at your chart and log, do you?
I don't usually like play in log, but I just go back and forth just to give it back. Yes.
Because I'm exclusively log, and it throws a lot of people off. But you read it, no problem.
Yeah, like I have a lot of my stuff shown in log just because it looks like it makes it look less extended, and then I'm less inclined to try and sell out of my investments.
So I have a theory. I think because in the last maybe 20 years or so, monetary expansion has been going crazy, that everything's growing exponentially. So like if things are growing exponentially, you can't use a linear chart to track it. It doesn't fit,
Yeah, yeah, for
right? You
sure.
need so that's why I've been using log charts. And for stocks that move pretty decently, it's incredibly accurate.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense for stocks that like, especially when they're going up in price and going up in price, because if you're looking at all in that same range, like if you look at something like I think like does Apple or Amazon, do they still show like like $10 or $20 on their chart, I think. Because if
Uh,
you actually look at that whole range, like, when a stock is $10 and it goes 10%, it moves a dollar. But now if it's $3,000 and it goes up 10%, it's going to go up, to $300, which is going to be a much more significant move on the chart, right?
yeah, watch this. This is linear. This is
Yeah.
linear.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, but like back in 1985, if you had a 10% move, that you wouldn't even see that on this chart. But right now, if you had a 10% move, just because the price is at 150, 140, it's going to move a lot more, right? That's why it kind of looks weird.
But that's a 10%.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Whereas if you put a 10% down there, it wouldn't even.
This is why I laugh when like everybody's calling for a bubble. I'm like, what isn't a bubble based on your definition? You're just looking at a pattern. Oh, is Apple a bubble?
Yeah, but that
You
doesn't
know
make
what I mean?
sense, though, right? If you're looking at a chart and saying it's a bubble just because it's a chart, that's irrelevant. It has nothing to do with the company or the economy.
Like just because it goes up really vertically, like or accelerates in growth, it's like, yeah, maybe the company's doing really great. Like, how's that
Yeah,
a bubble?
yeah. Like it can just go up there and then just hold for a while. Like that happens too.
Here's Microsoft.
That's a log.
This is log.
Yeah.
This era, this was the Steve Ballmer era. So he was the CEO after Bill Gates left.
Hmm.
He
That's
like
wild. I don't think I've ever actually looked at that from 2000 to like almost 2018. Hey, to get back to those highs.
yeah, this was the era, man. Like this is Windows 95. That's when they went boom. They had
Hmm.
Windows and Windows 95, but they peaked here. Yeah, 20 to just before the 2000 the dot-com bubble crash, or just a
Oh
year
yeah,
before that. And it took them what?
almost 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah,
Imagine you're a
pretty
shareholder.
wild. That sucks.
That really sucks. But it's a nice actually not it's not a cup of handle, is it? It's just a cup.
Yeah, just kind of cruising along.
Hey, see what I was saying before about Bitcoin? I could see it right here too. It's a little messy, but that is the fulcrum bottom. People don't
Hmm.
recognize that, but it's a fulcrum bottom. It's rare, but
Yeah,
it's powerful as hell.
for sure it is, because anytime you get that bottom, you have two things going on. Anybody who's short that's going to chase it, they're waiting for the previous lows to break. When they break, that's when they get in really big. And then as soon as you reclaim really quick, they're all going, "Oh shit." And then they're just, especially when you get these slow grinds like that, they're just going to keep covering, or they're going to try and keep adding and adding, which eventually is going to force them to cover. It's going to move even faster. And if you're long side and you panic sold on that, then as soon as it bounces back up, now you're all mad and frustrated because it's back up, and then you buy back in probably even bigger. So
Yeah.
you have both, like it works on both sides for the upside.
How crazy is that support, man? 1997 to 2009, 12 years later, it's just holds.
Yeah.
I love looking at charts, man. It's like better than like playing a video game.
Oh, it's the best.
But so this is where I need your help with, because it's confusing the hell out of me. And maybe I don't know if it's better to look on your side because I did want to see what if you had any resources in terms of checking short positions, like shares sold short.
Not on Toronto stocks, not on TSX stocks. I can't
Yeah,
remember. I can't even actually remember. There is a website that I looked at a couple times, but I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head because I never, like, I almost never short term trade TSX stocks.
I know Fintel has something,
Yeah.
but yeah. So let's just go with the chart first, though. So Galaxy, for those who don't know, it's basically it's like a proxy for Bitcoin, right? They hold Bitcoin holdings. They're not, excuse me, they just bought a miner, but they're not a miner. What they actually do is they service institutions. So, Kaylin, let's say you're a trader at JP Morgan, and then you get your approval from your boss to start trading in crypto, and you want to short Bitcoin. What do? You go to Galaxy. You say, I don't know, 100 Bitcoin to short. So Galaxy will facilitate that. They'll loan you the Bitcoin.
Okay.
They actually have like I think last quarter they reported they had 100 different cryptos and about 1.4 billion out on loan. So they're making money.
Mhm.
But yeah, so that's what I mean. Like they're a good company. The CEO is like a former Goldman Sachs guy. They're all ex Wall Street guys. So it's like a very legitimate company. It's unlike crypto. And so these guys were my MVP for the year. Like these guys, I made so much money with them. And this move here, if like I'm on the weekly, but if you go into the daily, it moves so technically, man. The Fibonacci's, everything was just brilliant. I traded the shit out of this. It was like the best. And then now I'm confused as hell because throughout this whole time, yeah, I throughout this whole time, it's basically buying a bull on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin went up 10%, Galaxy would do like 15, 20. It was fantastic.
Mhm.
Well, right now, Bitcoin is rallying and Galaxy is way underperforming. It did like 3%. Let me see. It did like 3% on the day that all other Bitcoin stocks were up like 6, 5, 12, 8. It like massively underperformed. And so I did a little looking, and it turns out that starting from June until now, shorts have been piling in. There was something like a couple 100,000 shares sold short. Now they're like 1.6 million shares sold short. So I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
Well, I mean, that could be good and bad, right? It's good if it goes upper, which makes the move more powerful, but they could definitely win too, right? That's the problem. But like, it does look like you kind of had like a little bit of a fake breakdown there, right? Like, in
This
what
one,
is that, between like end of July kind of thing?
yeah,
Yeah, like right there. We had kind of like a fake breakdown and it recovered. So I mean, it looks like there was big volume on that as well. See, like that
wow,
first candle, yeah, right there, that very first candle that closed below those like the previous lows, right there. That's pretty big volume on that.
yeah, yeah, that
So
one.
like that tells me there's definitely people chasing or panicking out, and then we had the recovery. So depending where people short, right? Like I remember I was telling you in our chat, like the like end of April kind of thing, that consolidation, like that would have been the best spot to short, um, like to get a good entry in there, right? Up into like kind of the 35s,
That one, right?
35, 36s, yeah, because you got that big blow off top, the two huge red days, and then you short pops for that next leg down. So anybody that kind of chased short that secondary breakdown, like at the end of July, like they're underwater right now. But like in my opinion, it just kind of depends how many people are up there in the 35, 36s, because those are the smart shorts.
I bet you they covered here, and if anything, they opened more here if they're smart. But I'm sure they wouldn't have ridden it or kept holding it, right?
It depends. I mean, like if it was me, like because that's honestly like that's a pretty clean pattern, like for stuff that I would look at. So like I would have shorted like in the 35s, covered probably 80% down into the wash into the previous base, and then maybe hit a couple pops, and then but if I saw that fake breakdown and reclaim, like I would have just covered everything, because then it gets a little sketchy after that. But that's just me, right? Like I'm not.
Like there was two good moves, right? There was this initial short, and then this one here, and then here's where I would have been like, "Fuck, let's just get out
Yeah,
and stay out."
that second one's like sketchier though, man. Like the best one's in the 35, 36 area. That's
Yeah,
the
because
easy money.
look at the volume on this area. It's bullshit.
Yeah,
Like this price was ticking down, but not many people were dumping. And then like finally something triggered here.
yeah, yeah.
Look
Because
at
like
that
on
shit.
that reclaim there, that's like right now it's just like it's not doing anything. Like I can't read that. Like it's just kind of chopping back and forth.
So this was the only information I could find on short interest. Short interest.
I'll have to look. Once we're done, I'll see if I can find that website I used to use for. It had like a weird name, but it was kind of like FinViz for all the U.S. stocks, and it would tell you like the current short flow percentage and everything on like TSX stocks.
Yeah, so yeah, because I remember looking for this thing and I couldn't find like okay, here we go. So like that's I don't want to pay for any of this data, but I mean like I could
Yeah.
obviously this wasn't the site that I initially found. I think it might have been another one called Whale something, but it basically showed that since July, there's been like a million plus shorts that got added into the stock, and I'm like, but it's fundamentally pretty strong, and it's got
Mhm.
quite a few catalysts ahead. So I'm like, maybe it was just a technical play, like you see something on the charts and they went for it. But I don't know. Do you see anything?
Right now, I don't see anything, man. Like I wouldn't touch this on either side personally. Like it's got to pick a direction.
Like it just confused me. I'm like, I understand shorting volatility, but why would you short when this asset is already 50? Or like, look how much down it is from all time highs. It's 50 something percent, like 50,
Yeah,
40%. Like now you can open up a short?
depends on the time frame, right? Could be an intraday. Could be an intraday play.
I guess so. This thing's kind of volatile.
Yeah. Like if it's moving $2-3 in a day, like easily you could play that thing every day short if you see the right setups. But on this time, like on this time frame on the daily, I wouldn't short that with those kind of ranges. Like you're looking to make $1 or $2 and you're going to risk $1 or $2. That's a terrible trade.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I need to know. Cause I'm like, this one was confusing the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Still got a while to reclaim, but
Yeah, I just watched that line, right?
sorry, what's that?
Yeah, just watch that line, like that uptrend line. Because that 35, like that 32 to kind of 35 area, that's going to be probably a big interest. Because if you look at the volume on that in that area as well on the chart, that's where most of your positions are probably open.
Let's check out my VPVR. I love this thing. Yeah, it looks like it'll run into like 31's a good target. Then after that, it's bullshit, and then maybe 33, and then just pure resistance.
Yeah. See 34 on the volume profile. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that 32, 34 range. It's great. I know volume profile for anybody that doesn't know what it is. It can be a very helpful tool. Basically, that tells you just how much volume is traded in a specific price range, not on a specific day.
Yeah.
So that'll help you. That'll help you get areas of interest. So like right now, you can see we have like a ton of volume in the 23 area. So that tells you that that's a pretty significant area. And then below that, it looks like the next biggest volume chunk is maybe around like, right? And then above it's maybe 34.
Yeah. It's just a good tool to compare it to like the candles. You're like, okay, well, it's like there's a lot of resistance here. And then if you see a lot of volume there, it's like, okay, I guess a lot of people took bad positions here or whatever it is, and they're ready to sell. So that's what could be resistance and whatnot.
Yeah, that's a really helpful tool. If you can line up the peaks on the volume profile with like a really clear support or resistance level, then that's probably that should be your main area of interest.
I'm gonna give people one of my tricks right now. I love matching this thing up with Fibonacci's, because when I can get like, look at that, 618 is undefeated. I fucking love this thing. Anytime you're gonna like you're gonna pull back the 618 level and the 6 to 65%, it's like undefeated. And if you match it with the volume, there's like not a lot of price action in this area, so it makes sense that it would go here, and then there would be buyers here.
Yeah.
Right? And look at that, it broke. So look, it bounced from 615, it went up, came back down, hit the 5, and now it's going to go up. And I bet you later on it's going to come back down to the 3. It's just ridiculous how. But I was going to say, like, my favorite is when one of these lines matches up with the volume. I'm like, that's a freaking magnet. It's like an electric magnet.
Yeah, it's the best, man. The more you can combine, the better. Like if you get like 2 or 3 of your own personal indicators that you use lining up in the same spot, that's money.
Yeah. So you want to wrap this episode up?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know, probably been about a half hour.
Cool. I do want to just point out about the Fibonacci tool. It's powerful, it's great, but the trick is knowing where to pull the tops and bottoms. And that's why I went through like thousands of hours of charting just to be able to recognize. Because here's a good question, right? Do you pull from the close or do you pull from the wick? And which high, right? Because there's waves. Like I knew to pull it from here, but there's a reason. So like this is what a lot of people need to get. Like you can go and buy like somebody's package or education material or try to like copy someone's style off like a forum. But like we talk about this a lot. There's a lot in the background that it's
I sent both of you guys my $1 million formula yesterday.
That's right. You did.
Nobody else gets to see that though.
And I guarantee you I'll screw up using it too. I'll end up like losing my shit. Kaylin!
You'll call me and be like, I just lost everything.
You did me dirty, you bastard.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Right. Let's wrap this one up.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching.
Take care.